Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over Winter Storm Billy, which was recently named by the Weather Channel. They recently named it Winter Storm Billy. We had Abigail just a few days ago over portions of the northern plains. Now we have Winter Storm Billy. I'm going to be giving you my personal snowfall forecast at the end of the video. We're also going to be going over two different models and showing you what they have. We're also going to be discussing the very cold temperatures, which are going to be impacting parts of the central United States from parts of Washington, Idaho, Montana, and parts of the northern plains southward into parts of Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. So it's going to be a very widespread system, and it's going to impact quite a bit of people. Now, here would be the current National Weather Service page. We actually have blizzard warnings in effect for 4 counties in northern and northwestern parts of Montana. Winter storm warnings for parts of Idaho, Wyoming, just kind of scattered through parts of Wyoming and then into parts of South Dakota and Nebraska there. So we have a lot of winter storm warnings in place, and then winter weather advisories surrounding that. Winter storm watches are up for parts of Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska, as well as some freeze watches, which are up in parts of Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and even a little bit of New Mexico there, where we also have some frost advisories for parts of northern Texas and southwestern Oklahoma, as well as some freeze watches just a little bit further to the east of there. We also have frost advisories in parts of western Washington state, and then we have some freeze watches in southwestern Oregon, southern Nevada, western Arizona, and northern, I would actually say eastern California, I guess would be the best way to describe that. Red flag warnings in effect for parts of Colorado and New Mexico, as well as some red flag warnings in effect for Utah, Oregon, and California. We also see some wind advisories in effect for parts of the Four Corners, as well as parts of Idaho, and we even see some high wind watches in effect for parts of southwestern California. So let's get right into it here, and let's start off with your current European model run, and let's show you what this model thinks will happen with the storm. Now, this is a pretty good image of what our radar looks like generally as of right now, and we are dealing currently with some scattered snow showers through parts of the Dakotas, Montana, into parts of Wyoming, and then also into Idaho and parts of the Cascades. But this is going to be dipping further to the south, and what we're actually going to see is this part of the system move further to the east, and that's where you're going to get most of your snow for portions of the western Great Lakes and parts of the upper Midwest. However, this part of the storm will actually dip further to the south, and what that's going to do is bring a lot of our snowfall for portions of the Rockies, as well as for portions of the Central Plains. That's where the bulk of your snowfall will be coming from. So let's play this through even more. So here would be by this would be by tonight, and then as we're getting into tomorrow morning, and this would be by early tomorrow morning, and this would be by later morning on Sunday, and we're looking at quite a bit of heavy snowfall. I would say moderate to heavy snowfall over portions of Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado there. This system is slowly dipping further to the south, and something that's going to really add to those snowfall totals is how slowly this system really is going to move. It's going to stall out over portions of the southern plains, moving from Kansas to Texas in a matter of about 2 days. So it's going to take about 48 hours for it to just move from Kansas to Texas, and that's going to really add up your snowfall, rainfall, or ice accumulation totals depending on whichever type of precipitation you end up to get. So here's also something to point out. Here's your 32-degree line. That red line that's kind of dotted across your screen, that is your 32-degree line. Areas further to the north of that 32-degree line are under 32 degrees or below freezing, which shows that you're able to support some snowfall. Now, here would be by Sunday early afternoon, and we're dealing with a lot of snow that's spreading from Iowa and Minnesota westward back to Utah and Wyoming, and this is where you're going to start to break up the system. This part of the system is going to merge with this system out in the southeast. They're going to move out to the north and east, and then this system will stay over the Rockies, dip further to the south, and that's where parts of the southern and central plains will get much of their snowfall. Now, Here would be by Sunday night, Monday early morning, Monday late morning, and this is where we're starting to get most of our snowfall and the bulk of our precipitation for portions of the central U.S. You see, this system moved out already, so we're not dealing with too much snowfall there, and the snowfall amounts really died down further to the east. So for this region, your snowfall amounts have drastically weakened and lowered, just because this system is expected to reach a little bit further. It's not expected to reach as far east as it was before. Now, this is when we start to deal with a lot of icy precipitation over parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and this is going to be a big forecasting struggle because exactly where this 32-degree line sets up is going to determine how much ice and where the ice sets up. And it looks like no matter where that ice sets up, whether it be in northern Texas and western Oklahoma, or whether it be in southern Oklahoma and northern Texas, or whether it be in Missouri and Arkansas, wherever it sets up, you could get at the highest maybe half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice if some of these forecast models are correct. Now, the reason that this ice is occurring, if you look, the 32-degree line is basically the boundary from the rain and the freezing precipitation, and basically what's happening, if this is kind of a diagram of the atmosphere, and this would be the higher up parts of the atmosphere and this would be the lower parts of the atmosphere, you may have colder temperatures below 32 degrees at the surface, so maybe the bottom 2,000 or 3,000 feet of the atmosphere, but then as you get higher up in the atmosphere, maybe you have an area where you have actually above 32-degree temperatures, so you would have, of course, rain droplets, and then maybe you go back to those cold temperatures and maybe 10,000 plus feet up in the atmosphere. So what you're getting is a change over to rain as you get over this area, and then it's trying to switch over to snowfall as it gets further to the ground, but it's not able to in time, and you end up having instant freezing rain on contact. So here to be by Monday early afternoon, and then as we're getting into the late afternoon, it starts to progress further to the east. Now here to be by Tuesday morning, you might get a brief snow shower over portions of Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, and then getting into parts of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. Maybe that's going to be a big if. Some of the models don't even show any snowfall for those regions, so that's going to be a big thing that we have to pay attention to. But then look what happens in parts of the southern plains, and I'll actually go back one here. We're dealing with quite a bit of ice over parts of Oklahoma and Texas because the system, again, splits off. So you have two systems that split off from this one big storm. So you have this one that split off, and then we still have this one that split off. So this is a three-part system. This part in the southern plains now is going to really intensify, and it's going to wrap around itself, and it doesn't have anywhere to go, so it's just going to strengthen in place. Now, you see quite a bit of ice going on for portions of Oklahoma and Kansas by Tuesday early afternoon. Here's by the late afternoon and evening time, and then here would be by Wednesday morning as you're waking up. And still ice over many of the same areas. Luckily, you might have a brief switch over to rain, which will melt some of that ice away, but still, it's going to be very, very dangerous conditions. And then you see some more snow for the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, and that system continues to wrap around itself. Now, here's the GFS model. Then we'll look at the snowfall totals from these models, and then we'll look at my personal snowfall forecast at the end of the video. So, here to be by tonight, and as we're getting into the later evening hours tonight, we're looking at some of those snow showers moving through parts of the Dakotas and the northern plains and parts of the northern Rockies, and then as we continue, it moves further to the south, and then as we're getting to right around Sunday morning, we're dealing with quite a bit of snow from Iowa, South Dakota, and Nebraska westward into parts of Colorado and Utah. As we continue forward, you start to see this first part of the system break off, and you start to see some very light showers over parts of the western Great Lakes, but this main system is now starting to break off, and it's starting to move further to the south according to the GFS American model. Now, here to be by Sunday night, and as we're getting into early on Monday morning, we're dealing with quite a bit of snowfall for parts of Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, New Mexico, and then down through the southern plains. And then the second part of the system breaks off, and you see this part of the system try to break off and move further to the north and to the east. We see this lingering part of the system that's going to stay behind and form into another low pressure system. So let's see how that one plays out. We start to see by Monday afternoon, this second system is moving out, and then we start to see that second part of the storm. It's now fully out of this southern plains part of the storm. So it's very confusing, the storm, because you have so many moving parts with it. Over parts of New Mexico and Texas by this point, you have snow and ice, and then as we continue, that ice really intensifies, and you see that ice in the pinks and the magentas there and the purples. That's where you're dealing with ice in those regions, and that sticks around over the same area for quite a while. You might get a brief switch over to rain Tuesday night before going back to some sort of wintry precipitation. So here's the European model snowfall depiction, and then here is the GFS model depiction for the snowfall, and they do have some differences. The GFS model is a little bit pushed a little bit further to the west than the European model, but generally they have similar outputs for these results. So here is my personal forecast. So this is going to be going from today all the way until the 28th of October, and again, this is now named Winter Storm Billy, so our second named winter storm of the season. Mountain snow for those mountainous regions in parts of the Four Corners up through the Northern Rockies, and a little bit of the Black Hills in South Dakota and Wyoming, where you do get a little bit of elevation within those regions. Now, here's my under an inch, or basically a dusting in these regions. You might not even see any accumulation, maybe just some snowflakes flying around. So it'll definitely make for a nice scene, but probably won't see too much if you're just in this under an inch category. If you're in this 1 to 3 inch category for parts of northern Michigan down through Wisconsin, and then for much of the central plains and back through much of the interior mountainous west, we're dealing with over an inch of snowfall up to 3 inches of snowfall. But if you're in this 3 to 6 inch area, this is where I'm expecting all of these regions to get at least 3 inches of snowfall, and in some areas, especially as you go further to the west, over especially areas like Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, Wyoming, you guys could see even more snowfall, maybe upwards of 6 inches if you're just in this category. 6 to 12 inches of snowfall are expected for portions of parts of the areas basically east of the Rockies until you hit about Iowa and Nebraska and Kansas. That's where it kind of cuts off. But basically half a foot to a foot of snowfall in these regions, anywhere in this pink. So that covers a wide area of the Central Plains. And then this 12 to 18 inch area, so a foot to a foot and a half of snowfall expected within these regions for parts of New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, and through parts of Wyoming and Montana. And then 18 to 24 inches of snowfall. I think I've used this only a couple times before on my channel, over parts of Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado, and then another little area for portions of Colorado, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas, where that system reforms and potentially dumps a little bit more snowfall over those regions. And then finally, I've never used this layer of snowfall on my channel, the 24 to 36 inch area for portions of Wyoming, Colorado, and Nebraska. That's where I'm expecting 2 to 3 feet, probably closer to 2 feet of snowfall over those regions, where I think you really could see quite a bit of snowfall. You also do get a little bit of elevation enhancement with that, so that's something to take into consideration. So upwards of 2 feet, maybe even 2.5 feet of snowfall within those regions. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.